Welcome to the Love Story with Lisa channel. Today, we're bringing you a brand new story. I was harmed and lost my memory, then sold into the prince's household as a concubine. I only hope to survive, yet somehow captured his heart as well. Synopsis: Li Su Qian, the prince of Wu Commandery, could never forget his deceased first wife, and for years would allow no woman to approach him. Seeing the household on the verge of dying out without an heir, Grand Lady Li spent money to purchase a young Amnesiac orphan and bring her into the residence. So long as you have the ability to give the prince one son and 2 daughters, I will name you official concubine. A year later, I gave birth to 3 boys at once. 2 years after that, another pair of twin boys. In the 3rd year, while we were trying for a daughter, the first wife who had faked her death years ago, by Rao Rao, returned in triumph. The children must be registered under my name. As for this cheap concubine, throw her out of the residence at once. Grand Lady Li spat at Bai Rao Rao in fury, then turned on Li Su Qian and declared, "If you still feel anything for that woman, then follow her out. This old woman has 5 grandsons. I have no use for a fool of a son like you." End of synopsis. My name is Song Ji Xian. I am the daughter of a minor 7th rank official in the capital. My mother was well known as a woman of great blessing. She gave birth to 4 sons and 5 daughters. 9 children in all, each one striking in appearance and quick-witted. As a result, my elder sisters were all married into fine households. 3rd sister Song Lu Xian married into the Chancellor Su family, while 4th sister Song Qing Xian became the crown prince's consort, and from that day our whole family rose like a kite catching the wind. When I was 15, my father was appointed prefect of a prefecture in the south. Just before the whole family set off for the Jiangnan region, 3rd uncle entrusted his daughter Song Rui to my father's care and asked him to find her a good marriage match. My parents, pitying Song Rui for having lost her mother early, and 3rd uncle having since remarried, agreed to help her consider several families of equal standing. But Song Rui was pleased with none of them. I understood clearly. She saw that my sisters had all married into powerful families, and wanted to follow their example, setting her sights impossibly high, dreaming of marrying into the most distinguished of clans. But Song Rui was not born of my mother. Those noble families would never accept her through their doors. What I never imagined was that Song Rui would dare set her sights on my own marriage. Some years earlier, by a fortunate coincidence, I had become engaged to Su Bai Yi, the eldest son of the Su family in Jiangnan. The Su family's power and wealth had grown with each passing year, and they had become the foremost wealthy household of Jiangnan in a single stride. My parents had originally planned to use the occasion of father's posting in Jiangnan to send me off in marriage at the same time, but then my twin sister, 4th sister Song Qing Xian, secretly passed father a piece of earth-shaking news. The Su family had been privately minting copper coins unlawfully, and had connections with several feudal princes. The crown prince, her husband, was quietly gathering evidence and preparing to cast his net and catch them all in one sweep. My parents were horrified upon hearing this and dared not let me marry into such a place. But the crown prince had warned that the news must not be leaked, lest the prey be startled and flee. So my parents could only rack their brains to find a way to dissolve the engagement as quietly and discreetly as possible. Apart from a few trusted people within the household, no one else knew, and Song Rui least of all. We traveled to Jiangnan by water. One night, long after darkness had fallen, Song Rui came and said she would accompany me for a walk to relax. As we passed by the side of the boat, she suddenly said, "5th sister, look, it seems there's someone in the water." Startled, thinking someone had fallen overboard, I leaned my head over the railing to look. Without warning, Song Roy shoved me hard from behind. With a great splash, my body plunged into the icy cold water. I didn't even have time to cry out. Her eyes flashed with malice as she raised the bamboo pole used to push the boat and swung it down hard. I couldn't swim. How could I fight off her blows? Bam! Just before I sank beneath the surface, I dimly heard her voice, thick with envy and venom. Song Ji Xian, what right do you have to live so well? Is it just because you were born into the right family? Without you, second uncle and second aunt will let me take your place and marry into the Su family. Your good life will become mine, but this was something I was never given the chance to say. My strength utterly spent, my body sank slowly into the churning water. Father, mother, elder brothers, elder sisters, Ji Xian. It seems I will never see any of you again. When I regained consciousness, I could no longer remember my own name or where I had come from. I only felt that I was both fortunate and unfortunate. Fortunate, because I had fallen into the water for an entire day and night and still had not died. Unfortunate, because the person who saved me was a human trafficker, because I was beautiful in appearance and graceful in figure. And still a young girl who had never experienced the hardships of the world. The trafficker regarded me as a treasure and sold me at a high price into the household of the Prince of Wu Commandery. The moment I arrived at the prince's residence, Grand Lady Li looked me over from head to toe and asked, I hear you remember nothing? I had been taught to lower my head and cast my eyes down, and so I replied softly, that is correct. Grand Lady Li sighed and said, a pitiful little child as well, so beautiful in appearance, with such refined bearing. I dare say you must have been raised in a sheltered chamber before this. She lamented for a few moments, then looked at me and said, the prince lost his wife many years ago. If you can give him one son or one daughter, I will establish you as official concubine. At the trafficker's house, I had seen no small number of young girls sold into pleasure houses. Their bleak and desperate weeping still seemed to echo in my ears even now. To be made a concubine to a prince was already an exceedingly fortunate fate. But still I could not stop myself from wanting to ask, if the Prince of Wu Commandery did not accept me, would I be sent back into the trafficker's hands? Regrettably, before I could ask, I was already led away. The steward arranged for me to stay in a small courtyard and assigned me a young maidservant of about 12 or 13 years old. The girl's name was De, small in stature but sharp of tongue, and it seemed nothing in the prince's household escaped her. Mistress, the prince hasn't been close to any woman for years. Last year a maidservant was so bold as to climb into his bed, and she nearly got beaten to death. Ah, was being a concubine truly this dangerous? Seeing my face go pale, De quickly tried to reassure me, don't worry, you were sent down by Grand Lady Li. So the prince would at most ignore you. As long as you behave properly, he won't beat you. This news did absolutely nothing to calm my heart. I cautiously asked, if the prince keeps ignoring me indefinitely, what will happen? De thought for a moment and then said, this servant isn't entirely sure. Only remember that some people were brought here as concubines before, and after a while the prince sold them all off. My whole body went limp. I nearly couldn't hold myself upright, trembling from head to toe in waves. Thinking of the grim fate of those helpless women, a chill rose in my heart like spreading ice. Silently I made up my mind. No matter what, I absolutely could not be sold off again. As the old saying goes, strike while the iron is hot. That very evening, the steward sent a woman to help me bathe and dress, then led me to the prince's courtyard. But before I could even step through the door, a shoe came flying straight at my face. This prince has no need of women. All of you, get out. The steward quickly bowed and murmured low persuasions. Your Highness, This was Grand Lady Li's intention, you see, get out. Before he could finish, the steward was apparently struck by something and clutched his forehead. Pulling me away from the courtyard at the same time, on the way back, we both heaved deep sighs. Seeing me drooping my head in dejection, the steward consoled me. The auspicious moment evidently hasn't arrived yet today. Miss should not be impatient, this old servant will arrange things again later. Yun Jean was the name Grand Lady Li had given me. I nodded obediently. Thank you, steward. And so 2 days passed. Each day we went, each day we were turned away at the door. Compared to me, the poor steward had it slightly worse. Occasionally he was gifted a few flying shoes or inkstones for his trouble. No matter how persuasive the steward was, Li Su-chien showed no inclination to meet me at all, let alone produce an heir. The household servants began to whisper among themselves. It seems that even a fairy descended from heaven could not catch the prince's eye. Not that I didn't catch his eye, more that I'd never even been seen by him. What a pity. Grand Lady Li was so furious she smashed 2 antique vases. I was uneasy and anxious, unable to sleep even at night. If I remained unable to fulfill my duties, would I not be sold off again? Help! I truly did not want to be sold again. Perhaps heaven heard my desperate plea. 3 days later, the prince went out to a banquet and returned to the residence thoroughly drunk. The steward's eyes lit up. While directing people to support the prince inside, he also dispatched someone to summon me, seizing the chance to snatch an unexpected windfall, and so, at last, I stepped into the prince's chamber for the first time. Li Su-chien of the Li family, Prince of Wu Commandery. 28 years old this year, which was by any measure no longer young. If he had married early, he might already be holding grandchildren. And yet beneath his knee there was still nothing. Small wonder Grand Lady Li was so anxious. In recent days De Air had told me quite a bit about Li Su-chien's private affairs. Apparently in his youth, he had not been the cold and detached man he was today, but a warm, lively, and easy-natured young lord. After marrying Lady Bai Rao Rao, the couple had lived together in the deepest harmony and happiness. Princess Bai was enormously well-liked by the prince, though sadly after 5 years of marriage there were still no children. Once, wishing to pray for an heir, she had gone up a mountain, and the carriage had unfortunately slipped off the cliff. Carriage destroyed, person dead. Li Su-chien's spirit had broken for a very long time afterward. He constantly blamed himself, punished himself, lived austerely, and refused to be intimate with any woman ever again. It was a story that could move anyone to pity, but I'm afraid it had no power to move my heart. I had only one purpose, to sleep with Li Su-chien, to bear his flesh and blood, and thereby secure a path to survival for myself. Prince, Prince, I called to him softly twice, but there was no response. The way he usually bellowed at people so impressively, surely today he had truly drunk himself into unconsciousness. I followed the dim candlelight and stepped inside, only to see a tall man lying on the bed, dressed in a black robe, his long black hair slightly disheveled, eyes firmly closed, so his features were this refined, not quite as handsome as third sister's husband, yet with a more pronounced masculine bearing. That phrase surfaced unbidden in my mind. Who was third sister's husband? In an instant my thoughts went into confusion, but there was no time to dwell on it. I drew a deep breath, then slowly approached Li Su-chien. Just as I was about to touch him, he suddenly murmured in a daze, "Water, water for me." Apparently the excessive drinking had left him thirsty. I quickly poured a cup of water, steadied his head, and slowly fed it to him. But perhaps his mind was still foggy. He had barely drunk a few mouthfuls before accidentally knocking the cup over with his hand, soaking his robes. Wet clothes like that, they had to be changed, or he would catch cold. So I helped him remove his robes bit by bit, until there was nothing left to cover him. Looking at the vigorous body of a grown man, my heart could not help but feel flustered, my cheeks burning, but my rational mind reminded me that shyness would accomplish nothing. Taking a deep breath, I extended my hand and, following what the trafficker had once taught me, boldly attempted a few exploratory touches. Li Su Qian let out a vague groan. His body reacting powerfully, like a flag instantly raised for battle. I drew a deep breath, gently untied my skirt, and slowly climbed onto him. This proved far harder than I had imagined. I had no experience whatsoever. My movements were clumsy and uncoordinated, bringing me nothing but pain and flustered haste, sweat dripping all over. Just at the moment I was about to breach the city walls, Li Su Qian suddenly opened his eyes wide. I was terrified. My whole body trembled, and I sank straight down onto him. Ah! Ah! We both cried out in simultaneous panic, truly frightened out of our wits. Li Su Qian furrowed his brows. Perhaps stimulated by the sensation, he suddenly rolled over, pinning me beneath him. My heart was pounding like war drums. I was desperately trying to think of an explanation when I heard him call out softly, "Rao Rao," so he was still not fully awake. I let out a breath of relief, then suppressed my voice into a soft and gentle tone. "It's me, my lord, it's Rao Rao." "Rao Rao is here." Li Su Qian moved with deep emotion, hugging me tightly, pulling down the bed curtain with one hand so that it fell over us both. Thus began a night that stretched long and languid, the mood between us winding and flowing. Though these feelings were not truly meant for me, I had at last taken that first step. The next morning, just as dawn was breaking, while Li Su Qian had not yet woken, I endured the soreness and exhaustion of my body and quietly slipped away. Last night's success had come entirely through deception and trickery. If today he were angry to the point of fury, would he punish me? De Eyre had once said that any woman who had tried and failed to climb into the prince's bed at this residence had been beaten half to death and thrown out. I, on the other hand, had succeeded in one strike. Wouldn't my crime be doubly serious? So I had no dignity at all, only knowing how to sneak away like a fox. Grand Lady Li had always had sharp eyes and ears. When she heard of this, she was overjoyed beyond measure and rewarded me with a generous heap of gifts, tonics, jewelry, and no small amount of precious silk and brocade. Even in my delight, I was still inwardly trembling, waiting for Li Su Qian's thunderous fury to descend. But an entire day passed without the slightest sign. De Eyre slipped outside to make inquiries for me, and when she returned she said that the prince's courtyard was calm and peaceful. Fu Gui, his manservant, had mentioned that this morning the prince had been in a very good mood and had even discussed matters of state with his advisors. Could it be that he had no idea I had been there? Quite possible. Servants afraid of being blamed for what happened would certainly not dare breathe a word. So for the moment, I was safe, and so a few more days went by. Li Su Qian returned to the residence again thoroughly drunk. I was by now practiced and familiar with the situation, so I simply followed the same pattern as before, doing what the cat had done. Imitating the tiger, this time he seemed not quite so intoxicated, so things lasted longer than the previous time. As the mood between us grew deep and lingering, he held me and kissed me deeply, his mouth calling out again and again, "Rao Rao, Rao Rao." I tried my best to respond in kind, driving him further into infatuation. When everything was over, I tiptoed back into my clothing, intending to slip away as before, when a cold voice sounded behind me. "Row row, where are you going?" I froze. Every hair on my body stood on end. How had he sobered up so quickly? Surely I would suffer the same fate as the maidservants de Air had described, dragged into the courtyard and beaten nearly to death? In that instant I was so frightened I went rigid. Unable to move at all, Li Su Qian had staggered out of bed, pressing one hand to his forehead, while the other reached out and took hold of my hand. When he had a clear look at my face, he demanded in anger, "You have quite the nerve. You are not Rao Rao." Of course I was not, but pretending to vanish into thin air was no longer possible at this point. I could only turn around and answer in a quiet voice, "Grand Lady Li sent me to attend upon the prince." Invoking Grand Lady Li's name might not actually be of much use, but at least it was more justifiable than sneaking into his bed clandestinely. At this moment I was truly burning with shame. Li Su Qian was seeing my face clearly for the first time, and also simultaneously taking in the red marks on my neck, the bruises at my wrists, the smeared makeup, and the fact that he himself was bare-chested with not a single scrap of cloth on him. In the air still floated a vague and unmistakable scent that had not yet dissipated. What had we just done? One glance made it perfectly clear. Li Su Qian tightened his grip on my hand, silent for a long moment, then said in a low, rough voice, "You may withdraw." I looked at him in surprise. There was still the fire of desire in his eyes, and his throat was moving slightly, but I dared not provoke him further and quickly turned to leave. As I went, in my panic, combined with the fact that my skirt had been torn by him, I nearly fell. Fortunately Li Su Qian reached out and steadied my waist, many thanks to the prince. I felt his hand burning hot as fire, and the force of his grip on my waist was strong enough to make me slightly ache. Hearing me speak, Li Su Qian's expression turned complex, and then he released me. I dared not linger and immediately ran back to my small courtyard. Even after returning to the courtyard, my heart was still thumping wildly. I had been discovered today. Would I still be able to benefit from such luck in the future? We had only been together twice. Was that enough to conceive? Carrying 10,000 worries, I remained wakeful through the third watch of the night, unable to sleep at all. Early the next morning, before I had fully woken, de Air came running breathlessly. Miss, the prince has sent for you." So the reckoning had come. I quickly washed my face, combed my hair, straightened my clothing, and followed the steward to Li Su Qian's courtyard, each step tentative and uncertain, like a cat walking a tightrope. The moment I stepped through the courtyard gate, I heard a thunderous scolding. "You people have quite the nerve. Stop hiding behind Grand Lady Li. Have this residence any rules left at all?" Watching over me while I was drunk and stuffing a woman into my bed. "Are you tired of living?" Hearing this, I trembled like a shaking leaf. Surely the old steward was about to be punished, which meant I would not escape either. Li Su Qian went on berating them at length. And if someone hadn't intervened, he might well have taken a cane to them. Fortunately, not long after, the old steward walked out of the main hall in one piece. I inwardly cried out, "Now it's my turn." But unexpectedly, the moment the old steward saw me, his face broke into unconcealed delight, and he leaned over to whisper a single sentence in my ear. "Well done." I was dumbfounded. Before I could open my mouth, someone pulled me into the main hall. Li Su Qian was seated in the grand armchair, dressed in a light gray Taoist robe that only emphasized his tall and distinguished bearing. When he saw me enter, his gaze swept across, sharp as a lightning bolt. This man, when clothed, had even more of an air of commanding authority. Compared to the moment without clothing, the intimacy was considerably diminished. He fixed me with a long stare, and then said slowly, "Within this prince's courtyard, no impertinence is tolerated." "Do you understand?" I nodded quickly, like a chicken pecking grain. "Understood. After this, see that it never happens again." Li Su Qian's gaze shifted slightly. He took another sip of tea and said, "Very well, go and pack your things." With that, he waved his hand and dismissed me. I left carrying a belly full of confusion. Pack what things? I stood bewildered outside the courtyard gate. The old steward was already hurrying toward me, elated. "Miss Yunjin, you are truly remarkable. The prince has given his permission for you to move into his courtyard. He has agreed to accept you. All these years, the iron tree has at last bloomed. This old servant has finally not failed Grand Lady Li's hopes." Haha, and so, in a daze, I followed De Air as we moved our belongings into Li Su Qian's courtyard. The courtyard was staffed entirely by male servants, not a single maidservant in sight. Fu Gui, being an old acquaintance of De Air's, explained, "After Kim Hui was driven out of the residence last year, the prince stopped using maidservants altogether." Kim Hui must have been the maidservant who had tried to climb into the bed the year before. According to De Air, she had been a great beauty, and yet even a close and beautiful attendant had not caught his eye. So why had Li Su Qian kept me? There was no time to ponder it further. We were installed in the west wing of his courtyard. The rooms were bright and spacious, floored with blue-green tiles, the walls plastered with jade-white plaster, far more beautiful and elegant than where I had lived before. Inexplicably, a line of poetry floated into my mind, awaiting the moon in the west wing. The door opened to the gentle wind, the flower shadow slides upon the wall, I mistake it for my beloved's coming. This hardly seemed a propitious verse. That evening, Li Su Qian came to my room. De Air, being perceptive, immediately withdrew, leaving us private space to talk. In the candlelight, I suddenly felt strangely nervous. Li Su Qian tilted my chin up, regarded me for a moment, then said quietly, "Calm down, you are far too stiff." Then he gently laid me on the bed and slowly loosened my clothing, his deft hands moving lightly across my body. I kept my eyes tightly shut in embarrassment, not daring to look at him. Li Su Qian gave my cheek a light pinch. "Wasn't your courage quite considerable before?" But that was when he had been drunk. Seeing me play the mute in silence, he gave a low, quiet laugh. "If you can't bear it, just say so." It was only then that I came to clearly understand one thing. A man's capacity when drunk is absolutely no measure of his true strength sober. Some who have gone without meat for many years, the moment they catch sight of any, they simply cannot find it in themselves to stop. For 3 days in succession, Li Su Qian spent the night in my room. To be honest, every time he arrived he was outwardly proper, few of words to the point of stinginess. But the moment he was in bed he became an entirely different person. Truly in the manner of one who enjoys spring nights too brief, rising late when the sun is already high. Though it is said it is not the field that grows exhausted, only the ox, and even a field is not made of iron, how can it be plowed over and over again without end? After a prolonged stretch, I truly could not hold out, dark circles under my eyes and all. Grand Lady Li heard the news and celebrated as if it were a great festival, rewarding me generously without pause, which could be considered some small compensation for my suffering, and so half a month slipped swiftly by. One evening after the rain had cleared and clouds had parted, I rested my head on Li Su Qian's chest to breathe steadily. While he wrapped his arms around me and said lightly, "You are also quite sensible." Perhaps it was because Li Su Qian had been away from women for so long. In recent days no few servants in the residence had come to curry favor with me. Perhaps they already saw me as the prince's favored concubine. Some sought positions, others asked me to put in a word for them about this or that matter. But I understood my own status clearly, and politely declined them all. Even though I had lost my memory, I still understood how to conduct myself properly. It was clear that nothing in the household escaped Li Su Qian's watchful eye. Thinking this, I cautiously asked, "You won't sell me away, will you?" However intimately we seemed to be on terms at the moment, my heart remained persistently uneasy. Li Su Qian paused, then asked me back, so all along it had been this she was worrying about. I nodded and recounted the whole story. After regaining consciousness, I had no memory of my own name or where I had come from. The trafficker had told me I had been sold by my family, but once I secretly overheard her talking, I learned I had actually been pulled from the river. Even knowing my origins were from a good family, a weak young girl like me had no proof and no way to protect herself. My heart sank as I said quietly, "I don't want to drift through the world of dust and hardship. If my family comes to find me someday, they will surely be heartbroken. I know I have people who love me. Every time I think of the word family, my heart feels warm. They must still be searching for me. If they have any means at all, they will certainly find a way to bring me home." A look of compassion crossed Li Su Qian's eyes, and he said gently, "Yunjin, now that rice has been cooked into porridge, I will protect you, protect me." But I still had no proper standing. Charitably speaking, I was his concubine. Bluntly speaking, I didn't even have the name of a proper concubine. At present it was clear I still needed to become pregnant as soon as possible. Thinking this, I held tightly to Li Su Qian and said in a soft, coquettish voice, "My lord prince, please show me some care." Li Su Qian's eyes darkened. His hand squeezed my waist firmly. "This time, it's you who took the initiative." Perhaps because I was genuinely docile and sensible, Li Su Qian gradually began to soften toward me. He grew increasingly gentle, even promising to help me search for my family. Moved to tears, I worked all the harder to respond to his affection. Li Su Qian was not merely paying lip service, he truly sent people to investigate, and even traced the trafficker who had sold me. Naturally she feared punishment from Li Su Qian and confessed truthfully that she had pulled me from the river. Apparently I had been wearing a precious jade pendant at the time, which she had unfortunately pawned for a considerable sum of silver. Li Su Qian told me, "This trafficker has been handed over to the authorities. She will certainly receive a good beating." The jade pendant, regrettably, was bought by an out-of-town merchant. And tracing its whereabouts will take time. The jade pendant might contain clues to my identity. That he had gone so far on my behalf already left me deeply grateful, and I only hoped for a result soon. Seeing my excitement, Li Su Qian also smiled and said, "Your speech sounds as though it comes from the capital, but the capital is several hundred li from here. How did a sheltered young lady like you end up drifting this far?" He pondered a moment, then turned my face and said with a half-serious half-teasing smile, "Could it be that you were running away from home in secret because of a secret lover, and accidentally fell into the water?" A lover. My mind was completely blank on that front, even if such a person truly existed. I had no memory of him at all. Knowing he was joking, I played along and pretended to sigh. "Ah, who knows where my beloved is now, who knows when he'll find me." Li Su Qian feigned anger and pressed me down beneath him. "This flirtatious little thing, I'm right here, and you dare speak of missing someone else?" Then he began to act up again, unable to settle. In the blink of an eye, a month rushed by. I was found to be with child. Because I had no experience myself, and the heir was also too young, it wasn't until a midwife sent by Grand Lady Li came to ask how many times this month my monthly clothing had needed to be changed that I suddenly realized, since I had entered the residence, I seemed not to have experienced that once. Grand Lady Li was delighted beyond measure and immediately summoned the physician from returning Spring Hall to take my pulse. After feeling my pulse, the elderly physician respectfully announced, "Lady is with child. The pregnancy is still early, she must rest and recuperate well." Grand Lady Li smiled so broadly her mouth would not close. Barely a month in and already with child, truly too wonderful. "Yun Jin, you are truly a child of blessing." Then she questioned the physician further about precautions to observe. The elderly physician stroked his beard and replied, "Lady has an excellent constitution. Her fate is one of many children and many blessings." Grand Lady Li looked at me with eyes brimming with hope, softly reciting, "Amitabha, may the Bodhisattva bless us." I was somewhat dazed. All this time I had longed to conceive as soon as possible so as not to be sold off again. Now that I truly was with child, my mind turned strangely blank. Li Su Qian, upon returning to the residence, also showed how moved he was. He was nearly 30 with no heir. When he heard the news he was more elated than any young man could be. That evening, he pressed his ear against my belly and murmured, "It seems nothing can be heard yet." I answered drily, "The pregnancy is barely a month along. What do you expect to hear? You'll need to wait 4 or 5 more months before there's any movement." Li Su Qian held me in his arms and said softly, calculating carefully, "This may well have taken on the very first time." Then he gave a quiet sigh. According to the heir, he and his previous wife had lived together for years without conceiving, yet with a different person it had proven this effortless. I dared not say much, only leaned quietly against his chest and gently asked, "My Lord Prince, has there been any news of the jade pendant?" Li Su Qian replied, "Still being traced." He added, "Don't worry, there will certainly be a lead before long. Now that you have a home to depend on, your family will rejoice on your behalf as well." With those words, he gently rubbed my belly. Yet in my heart I found it hard to agree with this version of things. Was this truly called having a home to depend on? No matchmaking, no formal standing. Brought to Li Su Qian's side like an object, and even after risking my life to give birth to his flesh and blood, I would at most be an official concubine. Li Su Qian held me close and whispered, "Yun Jin, I tell you honestly, after Rao Rao passed away, I had not intended to marry again. But in the end I still met you. I truly love and cherish you, and have never looked down on you. Once you give birth to a son, I will find a way to petition for a formal title for you. The matter of a first consort involves the entire clan and cannot be decided by me alone. The Li family is a large clan, and I must have the approval of the kinsmen." Hearing this sincere confession, warmth stirred in my heart. I leaned against his chest, and felt somewhat more at ease. By midsummer, my belly grew bigger day by day. These scorching days were truly difficult for a pregnant woman to endure. The physician said there was a likelihood of early delivery and came each week to take my pulse and help settle the pregnancy. I reflected ruefully, being a woman was truly no easy thing. Each night when I tried to sleep, even turning over was a misery. Recently Li Su Qian had stayed constantly at my side, helping me turn over and tending to my daily needs. Besides the heir, Grand Lady Li had also assigned 2 additional maidservants and a midwife to wait upon me, until one midsummer night of drizzling rain, I suddenly felt fresh blood. It seemed I was about to give birth. Li Su Qian showed a flash of urgency, but his voice remained steady. Yun Jin, don't be afraid, everything is ready. The physician also said there would be an early delivery, so don't be frightened. But how could I not be frightened? The first contraction struck, and I felt everything slip out of control. By the time Li Su Qian carried me to the delivery room, I was still staring blankly at the ceiling. If I could not survive this ordeal, would I go through this whole life never knowing who I truly was? But I didn't want to remain Yunjin forever. In the sweltering delivery room, I felt only wave after wave of cold rising from deep within me. Watching basin after basin of water being carried out, I felt my strength slowly draining away. Is it not going well? I asked, my voice hoarse and dry. The midwife replied with difficulty, try to push, my lady. Only when the birth canal is fully open can you and the little master safely pass through. But I had already tried as hard as I could, summoning every bit of my strength. I simply didn't know how to push harder. Li Su Qian called out urgently through the window, Yun Jin, don't give up. You still have to find your family. It will be very soon. So he truly understood me. He knew clearly that what weighed most on my heart was exactly that. The midwife said, my lady, your constitution is very strong, much better than many women. If you cannot muster a push right now, rest for a moment, preserve your strength, and push with everything at once in a little while. Easy to say, the pain made even breathing difficult. How was I supposed to find the strength to push? Who knows how much time passed? Suddenly I heard startled voices all around me. What do we do? She has fainted, she's too young, she's exhausted her strength. Should we save the children? In the chaos, I faintly heard Li Su Qian's voice, save the mother. This prince commands you, you must save her. Yun Jin, I beg you, don't let go. Hold on a little longer. Yun Jin, I clenched my teeth and forced my eyes open, saying weakly, my lord prince, can you make me one promise? Li Su Qian's eyes were red. He gripped my hand tightly, say it, whatever it is, I promise. Just stay alive, help me find my family, and then let me go home. Li Su Qian froze. His voice trembled. I closed my eyes. I want to go home. In the end I gave birth to 3 sons. The midwife said my constitution was strong and that even having several more children afterward would pose no problem. The entire process had been soul-shattering, but in the end all had come through safely. The moment Grand Lady Li laid eyes on 3 grandsons, she nearly fainted with joy. At first everyone had believed I might not survive, and that the children too would be in mortal peril. The old woman had nearly despaired of life, unable to understand why she should suffer so. But in the very last moment, 3 children were successfully brought into the world. Grand Lady Li nearly buckled to her knees, her lips moving ceaselessly, Amitba, may the Bodhisattva bless us. For this joyous occasion, the entire residence was rewarded generously. Before the gates of the prince's manor, red firecrackers were set off for 3 days running. By Grand Lady Li's account, this was to wash away all the shame of years past. For Li Su Qian's years without a child, there had been no small amount of rumors outside that he was impotent, using his indifference to women as a cover. Even a few relatives would occasionally bring their own sons or nephews to parade before Grand Lady Li, hinting covertly that they would be glad to join the household. Grand Lady Li had endured for over a decade. Now at last she could hold her head high, and yet Li Su-qian seemed not to spare me another glance. I understood. He was still angry over the words I had spoken on the day of delivery. Angry, then. The children had been born. It seemed I no longer needed to tread carefully to serve him, nor needed to work hard to win his favor. I was tired too. On the third day after giving birth, my body had finally recovered somewhat. Looking at the 3 identical babies lying peacefully before me, my heart overflowed with a gentle warmth. These were children I myself had borne. Just thinking of them, my chest swelled with an emotion beyond naming. That evening, Li Su-qian at last stepped into my room. The maids and women attendants, seeing him, quickly withdrew, leaving us to speak privately. Yet Li Su-qian's face was expressionless, and he only sat there in silence. I too did not speak. After a prolonged, tense silence, he finally opened his mouth. "Yunjin, I don't believe I have treated you poorly, so why did you say those words?" He knew that words spoken between life and death are words from the depths of the heart. I sighed softly and said, "You haven't been cruel to me, truly, you have been very good. But between us there will always exist a fundamental inequality. Deep in my heart, I have always told myself this is wrong. To be beside a person, and yet have to worry whether she might be sold away, whether a first wife would suppress her, this was not how things should be." Li Su-qian took my hand and said softly, "Yunjin, I know that outwardly you seem yielding and soft, but inside you are an extremely strong-willed person. Yet how could you leave? Don't you feel reluctant to leave me? Don't you feel reluctant to leave the children? Promise me, let us live peacefully together. Whatever you want, I will give you. Is that all right? All of it?" What I wanted was only equality, dignity, and the position and treatment a wife rightfully deserved. But even this, in the eyes of the world, was unreasonable, was making things difficult for Li Su-qian. Seeing I gave no answer, Li Su-qian tightened his arms even further, as if wanting to lock me inside his chest forever. With firm and resolute insistence he said, "The imperial edict conferring upon you the title of official concubine will soon be issued. From now on, you will be the formally invested official concubine of the Wu Commandery Prince's household, a titled lady of rank. You are no longer an orphan with nowhere to depend on. You cannot leave me, never. Never." On the children's full-month celebration, the prince's residence held a grand banquet, inviting officials and nobles from the various prefectures of Jiangnan. Now that I was official concubine, I was also permitted to appear at the banquet. The ladies and young misses who encountered me for the first time whispered among themselves behind my back, "Still so young, and such a beautiful face. Without those looks, it would be hard to move the heart of the Prince of Wu Commandery. Mostly it's that capable womb of hers. 3 sons in one birth. How could Grand Lady Li not elevate her to the heavens?" Almost everyone treated me with great courtesy. Some even took the initiative to make conversation and seek my acquaintance. Only one young miss looked at me with eyes full of resentment and hatred. The maidservant beside me leaned close and whispered, "That is Miss Bai Fan Fan, the younger sister of the late Princess Bai Fan Fan. Bai Rao Rao." So that was it. I hadn't originally intended to pay her any attention. But after the other ladies had left the banquet table, Bai Fan Fan walked straight up to me, gave a cold snort, and said, "When there's no tiger in the mountains, the monkey declares himself king." A lowly concubine whose name and origins no one knows, and yet she gets to look so pleased with herself. Her words were extremely rude, but I had no interest in arguing. I coolly passed by her. Unexpectedly she mistook this for fear and immediately pursued me, dropping another caustic remark. "Let's see how long you can keep this up." I turned back to her and said gravely, "Out of respect for the late princess, I am not pursuing this matter. But if you dare show such disrespect again, I will absolutely not be lenient." Bai Fan saw that I had no small number of maids and women attendants at my side, and looking at the formation as if they meant to overwhelm her with numbers. She sniffed and stamped her foot. "Just you wait." With that she walked off. I watched her retreating figure with puzzlement in my heart. I had heard that Bai Fan's father and brothers all served under Li Suqian. Now that the princess was gone without leaving a child behind, the relationship between the Li and Bai families was already like walking on thin ice. They ought to be more cautious than ever. Why was she coming to pick a fight with me? Truly not a wise choice. After the banquet ended, Li Suqian had also heard what had happened. He came back to the room and said, Fan is a junior of the Bai family. Before, I only thought her somewhat proud and willful. Now I can see she truly has no manners. Let me have her come and apologize to you." I shook my head slightly. There's no need. Even if I am in the right in this matter, once it falls into the mouths of gossip lovers, they will certainly say Li Suqian is heartless toward the late princess. Li Suqian bowed his head and kissed my cheek gently, saying tenderly, "You are still the one who thinks of the larger picture." With that, he dismissed the maids, then gently slid his hand inside my clothing. It had already been so long, surely the time had come? Yet somehow he still had the heart for this. Although the physician had said intimate relations could resume after the full month, I still shyly pushed his hand away. "Don't tease anymore. I still want to go check on the children. Even though all 3 little ones have their own wet nurses, I still want to feed them myself once. The milk isn't much, but it's a mother's care." Li Suqian nuzzled into my neck and breathed in a beguiling voice. "What's the point of checking on those 3 little blockheads? We might as well try again and give me a daughter. You've been cold to me for too long already." Before he had even finished, he had already wrapped his arm around my waist, lifting me onto the bed as tenderly as if carrying a treasure. "You rascal, don't say anything, save your strength, you scoundrel. I know you like it." The candlelight swayed and trembled. The night stretched long and tender. Sure enough, I woke late the next day. Li Suqian was still holding me tight, and in irritation I pinched the flesh of his arm. But just as I was preparing to get out of bed, someone outside urgently announced, "Wang Yi, something has happened." Wang Yi, Princess Bai, she has returned. Bai Rao, had she not already died? Li Suqian frowned and said sharply, "What are you talking about?" The teacup in my hand slipped and fell. Crash! It shattered on the floor. I had never once truly thought about Bai Rao actually coming back. When we arrived together in the main hall, we saw a slender woman of beautiful appearance kneeling before Grand Lady Li, weeping in broken sobs. Hugh, mother, your daughter-in-law has returned." The year the carriage slipped down the cliff, I lost my memory as well. Fortunately, an elderly couple on the mountain saved my life. A few days ago my memories suddenly came back, and at last I was able to return. "Mother, your daughter-in-law truly missed you so." According to Bai Rao's account, she had been injured and lost her memory, and over the years had been recovering at the home of an old couple in the mountains. Inexplicably, in recent days she had suddenly remembered everything, and had followed the trail back to the prince's manor. Could such a coincidence truly exist? I had only just given birth and been formally invested as official concubine, and she returned out of nowhere, as if an invisible hand were arranging everything behind the scenes. Thinking back to Bai Fan's strange and resentful gaze not long before, I seemed to understand something, catching sight of me appearing alongside Li Su Qian. A dark flicker passed briefly through Bai Rao's eyes. She paid me no attention whatsoever and threw herself straight at Li Su Qian. Husband, your concubine has truly come back, really come back." Li Su Qian's face was full of skepticism. He calmed Bai Rao with a few words, asked her to sit quietly to one side, then said, "How did you manage to come back, a frail woman like her, returning from deep mountains and wild ridges, and yet aside from wearing somewhat plain clothing, not even the hem of her skirt bore a single speck of dust?" Bai Rao paused for a moment, then answered, "Your concubine went to her family's house first, and had the Bai family's carriage bring her here." If she had already reached the Bai household, why hadn't she changed into a proper dress? She had deliberately worn these coarsely patched clothes precisely to make her story sound more convincing. Not only I felt something was wrong, Grand Lady Li's face clearly showed skepticism as well. Li Su Qian listened to her emotional account for a while, then finally said, "Very well, you must be tired. Let me have someone arrange a room for you to rest first, and we can continue later." Bai Rao showed a look of grief and sorrow. "Husband, your concubine knows that so many years have passed, so many years of being missing, of failing in a wife's duties. Now that there is someone new at your side, yet your concubine is still your first consort. We shared our trials and hardships together from humble beginnings. Surely the old feelings can be found again? Do you remember? That day when I wanted to go pray for an heir, and you refused to allow it, saying the weather was bad? All of it was my own fault." A flicker of emotion crossed Li Su Qian's face. He said gently, "I understand, go and rest first." Only then did Bai Rao fall silent. After glancing at me once, she withdrew at her leisure. Grand Lady Li's expression turned grave. "Qianer, this matter," Li Su Qian pressed the acupuncture point between his brows, "your son will investigate. Mother, rest assured." Li Su Qian told me to stay calm, then immediately left the residence. Though my mind was in chaos, I forced myself to stay composed and went back to the courtyard. Whatever might happen, the most important thing right now was to go see the children, but unexpectedly, the moment I stepped into the courtyard, the sound of a child's heartbreaking wail tore through the air. It turned out Bai Rao was holding my eldest son, her face filled with contempt and hatred. I rushed forward in alarm and quickly snatched the child back from her hands. "What are you doing?" Bai Rao let me take the child into my arms, spread her hands wide, and gave a cold laugh. "Cheap concubine. Does this princess need to ask your permission for anything? You had better remember clearly, I am the true first consort princess of the Prince of Wu Commandery. I am the birth mother of this child." Fury surged to the top of my head. My whole body trembled. I snarled in a choking voice, "This is my son. I ask you to leave this place immediately." Bai Rao stared at me for a long moment and then said coldly, "You rely on nothing more than a bit of youthful beauty. You're just a plaything. Do you know that I and the prince have known each other since we were children, 20 years of a bond like newlyweds who grew up together? Wait a few more days, when the prince has recalled the old feelings, then I will slowly teach you some manners. An orphan without father or mother, and she presumes to sit in the position of princess?" Humph! With those words, she walked off with her head high. None of the servants in the courtyard dared stop her. After all, by name and by right, she was still the legitimate mistress of the prince's household. Bai Rao Rao's words echoed in my mind and would not leave. She was not wrong. She was the true first consort princess. I was only a concubine without family backing and without a patron. Whatever feelings existed between me and Li Su Qian were, at most, a passing impulse, while she and he were a bond between two great families. Because of Bai Rao Rao, he had kept himself from all women for years. That spoke for itself as to how deep his feelings ran. Once everything was investigated and made clear, I feared he and she would soon rekindle their old love. So what would I be then? Bai Rao Rao could not bear children. And my 3 children, would they not end up in the hands of a woman like her? I was so frightened my heart raced. Unable to sit still, that evening, Li Su Qian returned. Though he also felt there was something suspicious about Bai Rao Rao's death and resurrection, a thorough investigation turned up nothing strange. The Bai family had stepped forward to explain everything, and the elderly couple she called her saviors had already been well cared for by the Bai family. Li Su Qian gently touched my face, saying softly, "Rao Rao, returning after so many years, seems to have changed greatly. Before, her temperament was open and lively, now she has become quiet and withdrawn. She must have endured much hardship. Were these not words of intent to welcome her back into the household? Understandable, of course. They had been husband and wife from youth, with feelings accumulated over more than a decade, while I, by any reckoning, had not yet been at his side for a full year. I forced down the panic in my heart and said quietly, "My Lord Prince, if Bai Rao Rao returns to the position of first consort, will the Bai family let me live in peace? With 3 sons as official concubine, will they truly let me live quietly?" But before I could say more, someone outside came to report, "Wang Yi, the princess says her heart is in terrible pain and begs the prince to come quickly." Li Su Qian paused briefly, then turned to me, "I'll go take a look, you rest." With that, he immediately left. I watched the hanging curtains swaying in the breeze, and suddenly felt utterly drained, nearly unable to stand. I truly could not understand what Li Su Qian was actually thinking. Could it be that in his eyes, now that the children had been born, I was no longer important, so everything I had poured my heart into building, in the end it was only the foundation on which another person would be draped in splendid brocade? That night, Li Su Qian did not return. He sent someone to relay the message that Bai Rao Rao's illness had flared up urgently in the night, causing commotion for half the night. Not wanting to disturb my sleep, he had stayed in the study. After that, for unknown reasons, Li Su Qian grew increasingly busy, frequently absent entire days. He still remembered to send a few words of reassurance each day, but he also frequently visited Bai Rao Rao. Bai Rao Rao, for her part, became more and more brazen, holding nothing back, frequently coming to my courtyard to show off her power and covertly threaten that she would sooner or later drive me out. The household servants began murmuring, "Princess Bai is a well-born lady of a distinguished family, and grew up with the prince as childhood sweethearts. Their bond runs deep. Lady Yun, the official concubine, has nothing to offer beyond youth and beauty. As for the 3 sons, the children will be registered under the princess's name as well." Frankly speaking, if Princess Bai had not come back, life would have been easier. Now that the first wife has returned, official concubine Yun is unlikely to have any good days left. Grand Lady Li knew of my precarious circumstances and called me to her side every day, earnestly reminding me, "Child, you don't need to worry. The children were all born from you, even if I don't recognize Qian. I will absolutely not abandon you. I was deeply grateful. In these dangerous times, only Grand Lady Li was offering warmth amid the snow. For added reassurance, I went each day to Grand Lady Li's courtyard. But that day, the moment I arrived at the courtyard gate, I saw Bai Rao Rao dressed in full finery, standing respectfully beside Grand Lady Li to wait upon her. Mother, Yunjin's origins are unknown. Now that she has delivered the children, she should be sent away. How can she remain in the residence? Mother, if you want to keep a proper concubine, a woman from a decent family would do. At least that would be someone of good birth. But a woman like this, who knows what her origins are? They say the children should be kept. But just give her a bit of silver and send her off. Grand Lady Li cleared her throat heavily. This is not your place to speak. Bai Rao Rao complained. Mother, why do you always look at your daughter-in-law with such disfavor? In the past, when my father supported the prince, thanks to that support the prince was able to smoothly inherit the title. Our Bai family, Grand Lady Li snapped. Be quiet. How dare you bring up such words? I find you displeasing to the eye. 6 years ago it was you who could not conceive, and yet you refused to allow Qianer to take a concubine, making a fuss every day, preventing any peace. Now Yunjin is gentle and honest as she is, and you still cannot tolerate her. She has given birth to 3 sons. And you, seeing me standing in the doorway, Grand Lady Li paused and then turned to Bai Rao Rao. There is no more business for you here. Withdraw. Then she looked at me with warmth. Yunjin, come in quickly. There are good pastries today. Come taste them. Bai Rao Rao's expression grew more and more discontented. She raised her voice. Mother, how can you allow such impertinence? Even if she has given birth to sons. It's no reason to be this arrogant. This is favoring a concubine to the detriment of the first wife. Are you not afraid of censure memorials holding the prince accountable? Grand Lady Li slammed her chopsticks down on the table. Silence. Yunjin is the most proper person here. I see only you as one without manners, daring to be so loud and disruptive in my courtyard, even after being reprimanded by Grand Lady Li. Bai Rao Rao still would not withdraw, lingering stubbornly in the main hall. Grand Lady Li seemed to have run out of patience and was about to lead me away when someone came inside to announce. The lady of the Sugwood Duke's residence has arrived. Grand Lady Li's face changed color. Her again, as if about to say something. She glanced at me, then quickly grabbed hold of my hand. I had no idea why Grand Lady Li should be so frightened. Bai Rao Rao hurried forward. Is it the lady of the Sugwood Duke's residence? How long since we've seen each other? I've truly missed her. Just then, the lady of the Sugwood Duke's residence led 2 young ladies into the room, one wearing precious light yellow silk robes, the other also draped in fine brocade. Both carried themselves with grace and refinement, but their faces were hidden behind gauze veils, their features unclear. Grand Lady Li composed her expression and addressed the lady of the Sugwood Duke's residence. And these 2 are? The lady of the Sugwood Duke's residence replied. This one is the daughter-in-law of Chancellor Su's household. Her family name is Song. Then she paused, and said with great reverence, and this one is Her Highness the Crown Princess. Grand Lady Li immediately performed her salute. This old woman greets Her Highness the Crown Princess. Bai Rao Rao was completely bewildered, unable to understand how such exalted figures could have appeared in the residence. And the moment I looked up, I saw the noble Crown Princess gently lift her gauze veil, revealing a face identical to my own. 5th sister. 5th sister. Both young ladies rushed forward in excitement and threw their arms around me, tears falling like rain and soaking my dress. "You are truly not dead, heaven has eyes. Father and mother have been heartbroken over you without end. First sister, second sister, and all our elder brothers searched for you until they nearly went out of their minds. So this is where you've been all along." Bai Rao Rao stared wide-eyed and sucked in a sharp breath. "How can this be? She is nothing but an orphan people were buying and selling." The wet nurse beside the young lady immediately stepped forward and demanded, "Who dares show disrespect before the crown princess?" Bai Rao Rao's face at last went utterly and extremely ugly. In the very moment I saw those two young ladies, countless images surged into my mind all at once, as if they would crack open my skull. A face identical to mine, and the face of the young lady beside her. My head erupted in agony, my vision swam, and I fainted. When I came to, all my memories came flooding back. I was not named Yunjin. My name was Song Ji Xian. I was the daughter of the prefect of Fuzhou Prefecture. I had 4 elder brothers, 4 elder sisters, and many loved ones who cared for me. Third sister and fourth sister sat beside my bed, their eyes full of unceasing worry. Fifth sister, why did you fall into the water? Fifth sister, thank heaven you were found, otherwise mother would have become another Meng Jiangnu and wept down the Great Wall herself. I burst into third sister's arms and wept aloud. Sisters, thank heaven you came to find me. The appearance of Bai Rao Rao had nearly left me with no way to retreat. Fortunately, I still had family to depend on. Afterward I recounted, from beginning to end, everything that had happened to me over the past year. Third sister and fourth sister listened with heartbroken sorrow, their tears flowing without stop. Third sister said angrily, "That vile Song Rui. She bites the hand that feeds her and has truly the heart of a wolf. We treated her so well, and she repaid us with such savagery." Fourth sister said coldly, "No wonder she was willing to ruin her own reputation in the hope of marrying that Su Bai Yi. It turns out she had a plan all along. Don't worry, that woman will come to no good end. I had originally intended to bring her out to face justice after the Su family fell. But since she has walked willingly to her own death, let her be buried along with the Su family." So Song Rui had married Su Bai Yi. Well and good, it was she who had thrown herself into that pit of fire. And I too should leave this pit of fire called the Wu Commandery Prince's household as soon as possible. Third sister, who had always been perceptive, saw my expression waver and asked, "Fifth sister, what are you thinking? The children have been born, but do you still want to stay in the Wu Commandery Prince's residence?" Fourth sister said with a cool face, "If you want to leave, no one will dare stop you. Let me tell you, your brothers-in-law have also come. If the Wu Commandery Prince's residence dares mistreat you, we will shake heaven and earth for them." "The brothers-in-law have also come?" I asked. "Which ones?" Third sister answered gently. "First sister is still in her lying-in period, and second sister is nursing mother. When news came from the lady of the Sugwa Duke's residence that you had been found, all 4 brothers-in-law came, even fourth sister's husband, the crown prince, arrived." A warmth spread across my chest. I suddenly felt utterly at peace, utterly steady. Looking at the bright eyes of my 2 sisters, I gave a quiet sigh. Li Su Qian has treated me very well. He has never done anything to wrong me. However detestable Bai Rao Rao may be, she was after all his rightful first consort and knew Li Su Qian long before me. I don't blame him for tolerating her. But I do not want to spend my whole life living beneath someone else's shadow. No daughter of the Song family will ever be a concubine, even if not for myself, for my sister's sake. I cannot submit to such humiliation. I continued, third sister, fourth sister, take me away. I will leave the children behind. Li Su Qian is nearly 30, many years without a child. He needs the children more than I do. Moreover, I am about to travel 1,000 li. I cannot bear to put an infant through such hardship. Though it broke my heart, I had no other choice. I did not even meet Li Su Qian for a last goodbye. I only quietly bid farewell to Grand Lady Li. Many thanks to you for sheltering and nurturing me this past year. Grand Lady Li was stricken with grief, knowing she could not keep me, and said, Yun Jin, no, Ji Xian, you ought at least to see Su Qian once before you go. There was no point in seeing him or not seeing him. Li Su Qian could not divorce Bai Rao Rao on my account, and Bai Rao Rao was already a formally invested princess and could not be deposed. It was best for me to simply leave, so I left. The moment we were out of the prince's residence, my sisters had us depart immediately in the night. Watching the Wu Commandery prince's residence growing ever more distant, a thread of lingering attachment still welled up in my heart, mingled with pain. But before we had gone very far, a mounted procession came galloping after us. Fourth sister was astonished. Can it be the Prince of Wu Commandery giving chase? My heart gave a soft tremor. Does he not have the heart to see me go? But I had already left. Was that not better? Li Su Qian's voice grew closer and closer. Yun Jin, Yun Jin, Yun Jin. Fourth sister ordered the carriage to stop, then said, Little sister, don't show yourself. Let your brothers-in-law receive him. How dare anyone bully a daughter of the Song family? The nerve of him. Third sister gave a quiet laugh. Fourth sister now truly has the bearing of a crown princess. Fourth sister gave a cold snort. Even the crown prince has to listen to me, every word. I don't believe Li Su Qian won't bow his head. Sure enough, there was uproar outside. Salutations to His Highness the Crown Prince. The Prince of Wu Commandery may rise. I gently lifted the carriage curtain and saw only Li Su Qian, his hair disheveled, his eyes red, as I had never seen him before. Third sister said coldly and sardonically, Now you think to value her. It is already too late. The four brothers-in-law surrounded Li Su Qian. Fifth sister is the Song family's own blood. She has been adrift and in another's care. Many thanks to the prince for looking after her. But no daughter of the Song family can be a concubine. We are sorry to disappoint the prince's good intentions. The one who spoke was third brother-in-law, always the most eloquent of them. Li Su Qian drew a deep breath. It was always my intention to establish Yun Jin as first consort. It was only that some things happened in the residence, and once I have resolved them, I will certainly restore fairness to her. Second brother-in-law replied, Then let the prince first set everything in order within the residence, and then come to the Song household to seek out fifth sister. She has been long away from home, and her parents have missed her beyond bearing. There will be time to speak of everything else later. First brother-in-law agreed entirely. Li Su Qian alone against four was simply no match, and he hurriedly said, Can I see her once? Let me explain everything to her. Fourth brother-in-law, who was none other than the crown prince himself, said coldly, Prince of Wu Commandery. Fifth sister is crown princess's twin sister, and a cousin of the imperial household. She absolutely cannot be a concubine. In your household there is already a first consort. Do not entangle things any further. Li Su Qian was forced a half-step backward, then said in a low voice, Your Highness the Crown Prince, this servant cannot obey this command. Then, abandoning all dignity, he shouted at the top of his voice, Yun Jin, you are truly heartless. Come out and see me. Yunjin, he howled until it could tear anyone apart, all sense of pride gone. Third sister glared, this man truly has no shame. Fourth sister scolded furiously, now the scoundrel comes out? One good beating will settle this. Seeing the situation, I gave a quiet sigh. Let me speak a few words with him. This reunion felt as if a whole lifetime had passed. It was obvious the two of them had only parted that morning, yet did she still bear resentment against him? Li Su-chien spoke hurriedly. I cut him off. My name is Song Ji-hsien, not Yun-jin. Li Su-chien paused, then softened his voice. Ji-hsien, I know you are angry. But the matter of Bai Rao Rao is not so simple. She pretended to have lost her memory, so where had she truly been all these years? Why did she appear so suddenly? All of this needs to be investigated. I had to make the Bai family lower their guard before I could hope to obtain evidence. And once you obtain the evidence, then what? I replied softly, I know, I understand. He had clearly suspected Bai Rao Rao's return was suspicious, yet still chose to investigate quietly. Because the Bai family and the prince's household had been entangled for years, rising and falling together. Old Lord Bai had once taught him to ride, and had contributed no small effort to his inheritance of the title. He and Bai Rao Rao had been husband and wife for years. I paused, then continued, and because Bai Fan was still unmarried, you wanted to preserve face for them. Li Su-chien went quiet. Ji-hsien, I am not foolish. What is there I don't understand? He shook his head slightly. Not exactly, Ji-hsien. If this matter is not handled properly, it will also affect you. I said I would make you first consort, so everything must be done thoroughly. I want to obtain evidence and force them to take Bai Rao Rao out of the residence. I withdrew my hand from his, and said calmly, My Lord Prince, whatever your reasoning, why did you refuse to tell me? Why did you choose to conceal it from me? Is it because in your heart you had already weighed the scales, and the Bai family's affairs were more important to you than I was? I drew a deep breath. If you had known from the start that I was a daughter of the Song family, would you still have treated me so easily as you did? You once said you would never look down on me. But from the very beginning, we were never equal. I know you have treated me well. But my mother once taught me, husband and wife must respect each other, look after each other, discuss all things together. She never taught me to swallow insults and accept losses. She only said, if a man makes you shed tears, then he is not a man worthy of your trust. Thinking of the warm and intimate days we had shared over the past year, my heart felt as if sliced by a knife. My Lord Prince, on the day I gave birth, you once promised me, if my family was found, you would let me return home. Is that still not going to count? Li Su-chien was struck as if by a heavy blow. He stumbled, Ji-hsien, sorrow swelled in my heart. A single tear fell. Right now, I only want to return to the residence and see my father and mother. If you still want to stop me, I will speak as if we have never met. Li Su-chien seemed to lose all his spirit. In a hoarse voice he said, Ji-hsien, I know I was wrong. If you truly want to go home, then go. I will come find you. Once I have resolved everything, I will come to escort you with 8 great palanquins, and bring you in through the main door in proper and dignified fashion. With those words he held me tightly, as if he wanted to blend me into one body with himself. Then he resolutely let go, and pressed into my hands a package of brocade silk. He turned decisively and led his people away on horseback. Third sister gave a quiet sigh. He said it, and he truly did it. I opened the package. Inside was a jade pendant, engraved with the character, song, the very pendant I had lost when I fell into the water. So he had been quietly searching for it for me all along. I could hold back no longer. I threw myself into third sister's arms and wept freely. Third sister gently stroked my hair. Cry, fifth sister, once you've cried, your heart will feel lighter. After returning home, the reunion with father and mother was an entirely different scene. Mother held me tightly, weeping and scolding in turn. Of all the children in the family, you were the youngest, and the most sensible and understanding. Of so many who've been ill-treated, none has been you. And yet the one who ends up worrying me the most is still you. Then she gritted her teeth and cursed Song Roy. That vile creature, a wolf in human form, ungrateful and deserving of a wretched death. Father too was furious to the point of turning purple. A niece like that, I wouldn't acknowledge her even in death. Because of my return, the household was bustling and full of life. People came and went, with chaos from the chickens to the dogs. That night, Mother insisted I sleep with her. She said she was afraid that the moment she closed her eyes I would disappear and be nowhere to be found. I lay in Mother's arms and slowly told her everything that had happened over the past year. When I came to Li Su Qian, Mother sighed. If you still have feelings for him, then let your sisters, brothers-in-law and brothers have a proper talk with him. But if you no longer want any of it, then our family will choose someone else for you. And if truly no one suitable can be found, then staying unmarried your whole life is no loss either. I nodded and said softly, when I was still in the Prince of Wu Commandery's residence, my heart was full of grievance. I only wished never to see him again. But now that I've come home, I can't stop thinking of the good things he did for me, and of the 3 little ones. Mother wiped her eyes, held me tight, and said, giving birth to 3 in one go at once. That's truly a daughter of mine, I can tell. 1 month later, Li Su Qian, travel-worn and weary, led his people personally to our household and formally came to seek the match. My father, who had always valued composed and steadfast young people, was not too harsh with him, and only asked calmly, have all matters in the prince's residence been fully settled? It was then that Li Su Qian disclosed the whole truth. It turned out Bai Rao Rao had been living in the Bai household all these years, having never lost her memory at all. Originally, because she could not conceive after so many years, she was unwilling to allow Li Su Qian to take a concubine, yet also unwilling to be reproached by Grand Lady Li, so she deliberately staged a fake accident. Her original purpose had only been to make Li Su Qian anxious and grieved for her, so that afterward he would never bring up the subject of children again. But after tasting the freedom of being unbound and unconstrained, she found she had no desire to return. The Bai family also turned a blind eye, letting her roam the 4 corners of the earth as she pleased. By all accounts, over those years she had been intimate with no small number of men, wandering knights, merchants, traveling monks. The top of Li Su Qian's head had long since turned a vivid shade of green, though since she could not conceive in any case, she naturally became ever more reckless. She had not originally intended to return to the prince's household, until word reached her that I had given birth to 3 sons. An ambition stirred once more. The Bai family all urged Bai Rao Rao, she is only a rootless orphan without support. Once you return, you can easily drive the mother and keep the children, and be reunited with Li Su Qian again. And Bai Rao Rao herself had also grown weary of wandering, and set her heart on returning home like a tired bird to its nest. She composed and performed for herself the drama of feigning amnesia. Regrettably, she had underestimated the situation far too much. Her performance was riddled with flaws from the start. The moment she appeared, telltale signs showed everywhere. Li Su-chien immediately had people quietly take control of the elderly couple she called her saviors, and at the same time drew out all the Bai household servants who had attended upon her throughout those years. With so much evidence laid out clearly before them, even the Bai family could not deny it. The Bai family took Bai Rao back, claiming she had gone mad, and applied to formally dissolve the marriage, which preserved the face of both households. Old Lord Bai also submitted a memorial resigning from office, intending to take his whole family and retire quietly to his hometown. When something like this happened, the head of the household could not escape responsibility either. Old Lord Bai had no choice but to accept the punishment of withdrawal and retirement. Henceforth, people of the Bai family would no longer appear before us. Hearing all this to its conclusion, my father gave a small nod, apparently satisfied. Father graciously offered tea and saw his guest out, then returned and said to mother, "This prince, both his character and his ability are not bad. He has been married before, but this time the matter has also been cleanly settled." Mother agreed with father. Both of them turned to me with a nod, waiting for me to give my answer, but my elder sisters did not see it that way. First sister, who had just come out of her lying-in period and was restless and bored, said contemptuously, "The man himself looks passable, it's just that he's far too old. He's a full cycle older than fifth sister. TSK, even older than first brother-in-law." Second sister chimed in, "Exactly. Fifth sister is in the full bloom of youth. Why should she be given to an old man who has already had one wife?" Third sister nodded. "The most infuriating thing is that at the beginning he didn't respect fifth sister and made her a concubine. Sister ought to go ask third brother-in-law whether he would ever dare do something like that." Fourth sister gave a cold snort. "Even the crown prince doesn't dare hold one in the left arm while embracing another on the right. He's just some minor little prince. Where did he get the nerve? I personally find him contemptible from every angle." With that, all four turned together to look at me. Fifth sister, "What do you think?" Seeing me say nothing, the sisters all gave knowing little laughs. "Oh my, it seems someone has already forgiven the Wu Commandery Prince's residence. We really have been worrying for nothing." I was a little embarrassed. After all, there were already 3 little ones to consider. All 4 sisters said in unison, "Don't use the children as an excuse. Every family has 3 or 4 children, don't they?" The sisters teased me for another good while before finally withdrawing, leaving me time to think things through on my own. "This is a matter for your whole life. You must think carefully, little sister." "That's right. This life was my own. The path ahead was mine to walk. All the more reason to think it through thoroughly." Mother and my sisters instructed the household not to disturb me, and I walked alone through the garden. It was already late autumn now, the wind bleak and hazy, all the flowers in the garden long withered. When I had first entered the Wu Commandery Prince's residence, the weather had been just like this. Lost in thought, I suddenly spotted someone outside the side gate flying a kite. The kite looked very familiar, very much like the beauty kite that Li Su-chien had once made and given to me. I remembered, at the time, he had been drawing in his study, saying I was so beautiful he couldn't find words to describe it, and told me to sit still and not move so he could capture my likeness to make the kite. I had barely sat for a little while before growing stiff, and leaned back against the bed. By the time the kite was finished, the likeness was somewhat askew. I teased him that his drawing was ugly, and he said it was because a beauty like me didn't know how to be professional. Then the 2 of us had a quarrel, and ended up rolling together onto the bed. Back then, we were truly very happy. Thinking this, I quietly walked toward the side gate. Through a crack in the door, I could see Li Su-chien standing outside, calling loudly, "Yun-jin. Yun-jin, is that you? Why was he here?" I scolded through the gate in irritation. "I told you already, my name is Ji-hsien." Li Su-chien burst into delighted laughter. "So you did see the kite?" "I knew it." Seeing I gave no answer, he softened his voice. "Whether your name is Ji-hsien or Yun-jin, in my heart you are the one I love most. And the name Yun-jin is truly beautiful. In the clouds, who sends the brocade of silk, wild geese fly homeward, the moon fills the west tower, the longing that cannot be shed, the willow catkins have only just fallen and already the heart is full. Ji-hsien, how could you bear to disregard me for so long? Ji-hsien, will you still come back with me? Ji-hsien, I've grown thin with longing and missing you. Look at me, over the past year I had never known Li Su-chien could be this verbose." Words of tender feeling, shameless as they were, poured forth like a spring. The two small maids standing beside me laughed until they shook, nearly hugging their own bellies and falling over. My face burned all the way to my ears. I shouted, "Stop standing behind someone's house saying all that nonsense." Hearing me speak, Li Su-chien was overjoyed. "Then I won't speak from behind the house anymore. I'll go around to the main entrance and say it to you there, shall I? Ji-hsien, Ji-hsien, may I step through your gate? Let me in, Ji-hsien, won't you?" Afraid that if he kept talking it would only grow more embarrassing, I had no choice but to let him in. My 4 sisters stood behind me, grinning. "Look at that, see? She's gone soft-hearted after all. All right, we'll grudgingly accept this brother-in-law, just barely passing the threshold." And so I followed my heart. At last I was able to dress in splendid attire, and ride a palanquin for 10 li of red dress processions, entering the Wu commandery prince's residence through the main door in rightful and proper fashion, with full dignity and her true name. Mother had once said it very well: "If a man makes you shed tears, leave him. But if he can make you smile, then have children with him and live your life together." Epilogue. A small drama. The brothers-in-law of the Song family. 5 men sat around a table, drinking wine together. First brother-in-law was a military general, straightforward in nature, saying exactly what he thought. Fifth brother-in-law: "When it comes to being a son-in-law of the Song family, I have the most experience. Let me pass on a few pointers." Li Su-chien respectfully replied. First brother-in-law: "Please instruct me." Seeing that Li Su-chien, though older, maintained a respectful and humble manner, first brother-in-law was very pleased and said, "Between husband and wife, harmony is most precious. When your wife says something, the best response is to nod your head. You must understand, when she talks to you, she is not looking for your opinion. She also doesn't not know what to do. She only wants your support. Do you understand?" The moment he finished, third brother-in-law Su Chi Lang slapped the table in admiration. First brother-in-law: "Words of gold and wisdom, every sentence a truth." Even this point I had to live with Lu Xian for half a year before I finally understood. Second brother-in-law fanned himself with a folding fan, saying with an air of superiority, "Ha, I knew from the very beginning, which is why I have a wife who is both virtuous and gentle. Think it through. If a husband is good, naturally the wife will be happy." Li Su-chien sat there in a daze. An entire gathering of grown men, officials and generals all, yet every single one was afraid of his wife. Only fourth brother-in-law, who was the crown prince himself, sat in solemn thought before saying with gravity, These words had best not be heard by outsiders, or people will laugh at us for being henpecked husbands. Li Su-chien stared wide-eyed and murmured, "Your Highness the Crown Prince, even you are the same." The Crown Prince gave a faint smile. "Out here beyond the palace, let us speak not as lord and subject but as family. To tell you the truth, though it is embarrassing to admit, whenever Ji Xian is unhappy, I fall into a complete panic and don't know what to say." First brother-in-law immediately seized the Crown Prince's hand, moved deeply. Me too. When my wife makes me kneel as punishment, I don't dare kneel for even one moment less." Second brother-in-law furrowed his brows, as if recalling old memories, and sighed. Affairs of the heart diminish a hero's spirit. Make your wife angry less often, and you'll be punished less. Third brother-in-law was naturally generous and easygoing. What's there to worry about? Lu Xian once said, "Father has lived this way for decades, and everyone can see how happily father lives." Exactly, that's the truth of it. Li Su-chien had at last come to a full understanding. This was truly a proper fellowship of henpecked husbands, but after thinking it over, he still had a question, so he asked, "Your Highness, you are the most noble son of heaven. How did you end up married to fourth sister?" The Crown Prince looked up at the bright moon in the sky, and smiled. "That story is another tale entirely, and if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Love Stories with Lisa for more stories. Thank you so much.